Welcome to talks by members of the Survey and Cartography section of the National Speleological Society. These videos are intended to be how-to videos on cave survey software and other programs used by cavers in the exploration and documentation of the world beneath our feet.
All right, so if can everyone see my screen okay? And is my audio okay before I start? Okay, I'm getting thumbs up. Fantastic. All right, so yep, CaveWhere. All right, so what is CaveWhere? CaveWhere is a survey, cave surveys survey program. And these are kind of the things that it can do. So you can enter survey data in it with the Cave Survey entry tool. You can do three-dimensional sketch morphing or georeferencing. In CaveWhere, it's called carpeting. You can create quick working maps. That's interesting. It just switched randomly. Oh, looks like I have timing enabled. We'll turn that off. All right, so you can create quick working maps. Basically, quick. You can make paper maps with it off of your three-dimensional rendered sketches. You can manage leads inside of it, so knowing where the leads are in the cave. And then also you can import and export multiple cave formats, such as compass, walls, cervex, comma-separated files. So why did I develop CaveWhere? So a long time ago in college, actually, I would go surveying. I would enter the line plot. I get all excited, like, oh, where's the leads at? And then, the line plot is like, doesn't show you where the leads are at. And it was really slow to update the cave maps. And then you go back and survey some more, get more line plot. And it was kind of hard to get, the line plot working. So you have your line plot, and the problem with the line plot is, it doesn't really show you much in the cave. It just shows you like a line, and you're not sure, like, for example, this cave passage here, you're not sure if there's breakdown in it. Is there a stream? Is there leads? Is there a dome climb you have to do? Is there a pit? Pretty much all that information is represented by a line. And CaveWhere solves this problem by essentially taking your scan notes, referencing it on the line plot in 3 dimensions, which I'll show you in the demo. So you can see the breakdown, the ceiling steps, the floor steps, everything that's in that passage. So this is a great example of, what you get from CaveWhere versus just looking at a line plot. Similarly, when you're doing line, sorry about this. It's like randomly switching slides on me. I'm not quite sure why. Anyways, back to this. So once you have your working map, you can export it to a piece of paper. You can import that into like Illustrator or Inkscape, and that will you can generate a final map off of this. So this is an example of where I had a working map generated by CaveWhere and produced a final map off of the CaveWhere drawing. So what does it take to make a model? And I'll show you that in this demo. All right, so let's switch over to CaveWhere. So when you first come into CaveWhere, you'll have this 3-dimensional view, and you have essentially a big flat plane that you can spin around. So if you right-click, you'll spin. If you use your scroll mouse, you'll zoom, and you can pan with left-click. There's kind of two modes that you can have. You can have your view mode, which we're currently in, and then you can switch to the data mode. And the data mode is essentially where you enter the survey data, and the view mode is where you view the survey data. You can change the orientation that you're at, like, so you can do like north up. Oh, we lost everything. That was problematic. It's always when you demo software, you break stuff. This is the best way to test code, is you demo it for a live audience. And we will, I don't think I can fix this easily, so we'll just start it. We'll just start over. So don't do that while you're, yeah. All right, so again, we're back into the model mode. Okay, so you can change your like north up or planner profile. And so if you're in the data mode, you can add a cave, and you simply do that by just clicking Add Cave. You can change the cave's name. So here's we'll name this Sauce Cave. We add a new trip. This will take you to a trip view where you can enter data. We can rename the trip to say like my trip. You have declination, calibrations for distance, front sight, back sight. You can add team members. Say if I add myself, because I can remember my name, but I can't remember anyone else's. And you can put like a role, like usually I go and sketch some stuff. And then you can add survey data. When you get to the survey data entry, a lot of times I like to add a page of notes. So when you add a page of notes here, you get a full view of all the data. And this really helps your neck from like looking down at the page and entering it. Of course, if you're using digital survey, you've already solved this problem and you have it from your PDA. But anyway, so to add data, you simply just add data, put in the distance, 3.2. These are backsides. And 0.7. All right, so once you add data, CaveWhere automatically calculates the line plot for you. You don't have to hit compile. You don't have to find where you like look at the errors. It tells you all the errors in here already. Like if you didn't enter a vertical angle, it'll tell you that there's an error. And you can click on this and it's like, oh, we're missing a backsite. So we'll put this back in. And you can go back to view and you can see that our 3-meter survey line has been entered. And you can zoom in, and it's hanging out there. All right, so that's essentially how you enter cave survey data. But let's load in something more interesting. All right, so here is a cave in Montenegro, and it has here's the plan view, and of course we can rotate this, and we can start seeing the 3-dimensional nature of this cave. And you can see that there's a large shaft series at the back. And let's add some more data to this. So if we go to our data and trip 12, this is the bottom of the cave. So we're going to add data all the way down to here. So we kind of want to know like, oh, where's the cave going to? CaveWhere also, just to interject this, CaveWhere also has this kind of navigational bar. It's similar to a browser. CaveWhere operates on pages versus dialogue. So you can go back and forth between different pages by using these back arrows. So say we were in view before, now we can go back to the data view that you were just at. Again, we're going to add the survey notes in, and we'll open them. And we're going to add this, we're going to reference this piece of cave notes here. So the first step is once you have your survey notes in here, you click on carpet, and there's 2 steps inside of the carpet tool. The first one is the scrap, and that's essentially just making a polygon around your piece of cave notes. So if you just click around, make a polygon. Sometimes I make them a little more pretty, but once you get the idea. It closes the polygon automatically. It's not like GIS where if you go in counterclockwise direction, you break everything. It doesn't matter, doesn't care. You can go any direction you like. And then you want to start referencing survey stations. So I can see here's a 94. So we'll click on a survey station. There's the station tool up to the right that I clicked on. You just click on a station, and we're going to rename that station to 94. Then you'll get these leader lines. Usually on the second station, sometimes it'll guess right, sometimes it'll guess wrong. Currently it's guessed wrong, so this says B91, so we'll put this to B95, which we can see the 95 over here. If you click on these stations, it'll tell you where the next station goes. Once you've added these stations in, again, you don't have to say, okay, you don't have to recompile, just go over to your view, and you'll see that this piece of cave survey is in your view. And if you notice that these 3 stations have been referenced in 3D, and the plan has been rendered in 3D, but these other 2 stations that are on our sketch haven't been registered, and you can see that they're slightly off. And if we add them by adding some more stations, these stations are actually in this current trip. So the leader lines don't show up, but now that they're registered, you can see that, oh, this passage is going down in the plan view. There's some flowstone, there's some water coming down. And of course, there's a big 50-meter shaft going down. Yeah. So let's see what's at the bottom of the pit. So we'll go to the next page of notes. And here's the next page of notes. Here's the bottom of the pit. And we'll do this one super fast. So here's B90, 98, and 97, and 96. All right. Oh, and there's the bottom of the cave. So you can see it goes down this big shaft and kind of goes up a slope. And then looks like there's a lead there. You can also add leads in CaveWhere. If you click on lead, you can click on where the lead is, and you can estimate the passage dimension. Maybe this is a canyon. Maybe there's something on the notes. There's also a lower level stream passage, so you can click on that and say, oh, and these you can just type whatever you want. So we can say lower level. And then if we go back to view, you can see that these leads have been added. And I'll show you this lead list stuff in a little bit. But that's how you register leads. One thing to note, though, is when you're doing this georeferencing, this north and scale is really important. So CaveWhere automatically looks at the north, like figures out what north is and the scale based on where you've clicked your stations. And it assumes that you're sketching to scale. I've seen people put non-sketch to scale sketches in here, and it seems like it works just fine. Like it warps all their non-sketch to scale stuff. Of course, it's better to sketch to scale. I'd recommend doing that. If you're not sketching to scale, like bad. So if you have sketch to scale, this will give you good auto calculate. That's the end goal. But if it's not calculating this quite right, or you want to make it better, you can click turn off auto calculate. And there's two tools here. There's the north tool, and then there's the scale tool. If you have a scale bar here in this upper right-hand corner, you can click this this length tool, and you can, oops, done. All right, I broke it. Okay, you can click the beginning and end, and you can say like, oh, how long is this? It's 10 meters, cool. So you just plug in 10. And what this will do is it'll calculate the how far it is on the paper versus how far it is in the cave. So this cave sketch was sketched at 1 to 500. So 1 inch in the cave equals 500 inches in, or 1 inch on the paper equals 500 inches in the cave. If you're using freedom units, if you're using metric like you should be, you know, it's going to be, what is this, 2 centimeters. 2 centimeters in on your paper is equal to 10 meters in the cave. Or one meter on the paper equals 500 meters in the cave. So, and then if you want to make sure your north is up, you can click on north up and just use this tool. It'll give you an arrow, and our north up is right here. And you can click that, and it'll give you a little bit better rotation on that. If you decide just to pick a random scale, let's see what happens. So if we put like 100 in here, it'll recalculate it. It will do something, but it won't be good. So if you look at this, you can see the warping gets all crazy. If you get crazy warping, more than likely your scale is screwed up. So if we go back, let's look at what happens if we put 1,000 in here. If we put 1,000, it's going to make the piece of cave really big. So when it tries to warp, it just squishes everything together. Like if you had a loaf of bread and you're just like, so you don't want squish bread. You want like normal size bread. So usually I just keep this auto calculate to calculate by itself. It usually does a good enough job. The last thing we should look at is one of the coolest features I think CaveWhere has, and that is to morph and make profile maps. And it works the same way as plan. You just click on your scrap up on the right-hand side. You make your polygon super fast. And then you click your stations, 95. And so if you look at this, currently we're in plan mode, but we want to switch to a running profile. So if you do running profile and then click the next station, here's B96. All right, so we got B96, and then there's B97, B9, and 98. And if we view this, now we have both a plan. Here's the plan view of your upper scrap and your lower scrap, your lower level and your upper part of that pit, and then you have your 50-meter shaft. If we look at that in profile, it looks pretty cool. All right, so once you have your cave map, we'll switch here to the same cave, but slightly more completed version. All right, so here's the same cave, but just like the beginning part of it. This has both the plan and profiles currently in here, so we can spin that around. And if you're using CaveWhere's interaction, the key for rotation is just click on the area you want to rotate around. Say if you're even zoomed in real super close, and I want to click around 30, just click around 30 and it'll rotate around 30. I've worked really hard to make the rotation in CaveWhere super good. I hate 3D programs that when you try to rotate stuff, it just goes crazy and you're like, ah, I can't, where did it go? So the center of rotation is always around the mouse. And so that's good to know. And when you want to make this go to a paper version, basically you want to decide, okay, I'm printing out a paper. What's the best way to fit it on a piece of paper? We need to orient it correctly. A lot of times, some caves have a trend where they say if they go at like 30 degrees, we want to say, let's plug 30 degrees in here. So we just change the azimuth to 30 degrees. We go to export to get it on the piece of paper. And there's this button up here. It's not super intuitive. This will probably get redesigned at some point. There are kind of some issues with the usability of the export area, which I'm not personally proud of, but it is what it is currently, but eventually it'll probably get way better. So you go up to this button and say select area, and then you just select a area on here. And you can readjust the area that you want to put on the piece of paper. Once you've got the area figured out, say we'll make this a little smaller, and we'll hit done. It'll put it on your piece of paper. By default, this is very American, so I apologize for any of our international viewers. It's currently letter size, but you can change it to any paper size you want. And also currently it's in inches, which will be changed in the future to more reasonable units. So we got letter, and one big critical thing is all these options are hidden in the option button. So if you don't see those options, just click on the option button. And down here, you have your scale of this piece of cave. Right now, it's being exported at 1 to 957. Our cave's drawn at 1 to 500, so let's export it at 1 to 500. We can do any scale you want. Now, if you notice, the cave no longer fits on the page. That's not really good if you want to print it out. To make it fit on the page, you can go up here to paper size, hit custom, and you can look at the size of the piece of cave that you're trying to export, and you can change that size to match the size that you want to export to. So here we have 12 inches, so it needs at least 12.3 inches here. So we'll just plug in 14 inches. And now our cave fits on our piece of paper. Let's make it a little bit bigger because our margin's kind of weird. All right, so 15 inches. And now if we want to export it, there's several different types of export. export formats. You have JPEG, PNG, TIFF if you want to go raster only, and then there's also PDF and SVG. These export options are in the new version of 0.09. That's been uploaded to the web page as of today. So if you're watching this webinar, you can go to CaveWhere.com and download the new version. I'd highly recommend doing that. Another great thing about the new version is this export functionality takes a lot less memory to run on your computer. I've moved all the tiling process. What happens is CaveWhere goes and takes a photo of your whole entire cave in a bunch of tiles and puts them all together. That takes a significant amount of memory because it uses it in a bitmap. If you're using a raster export like JPEG, PNG, or TIFF, it will require essentially this amount of memory that's underneath here. So right now this export's really small. It's only 56 megabytes. 56 megabytes, most of you are like, that's enormous. What's going on here? Trust me, if you do like 100 by 100 inch export, that'll take like 3.6 gigs of memory. But that memory requirement has really dropped in the newer version, so I'd highly recommend using that. If you use a vector version, if you use a vector type such as PDF or SVG, these formats work a lot better. They stream the data to disk versus having to allocate the whole entire image to do the compression. They won't use as much memory, so you can have they work a lot better. So I'd recommend using like a PDF, for example. So once you say, okay, I want to use PDF, hit export. And did I hit export? Oh, there we go. Export. You hit export, and then you just choose where you want to save it to. So I'll just save it to the desktop. I'll hit save, and then CaveWhere will render it and display the image. So there's the high resolution version of the image on your paper. So another thing that's super cool is mixing the plan and profile together. This is a great way to visualize your cave and get like a 3D cave system onto a 2D surface. So if we go back to view, you can change your perspective of your cave map to a profile mode. And this is at 30 degrees. And we'll hit export again. And you can select a new area. And we'll hit done. And this new area pops up in this export window. You can drag this export around. And this essentially is linked to the plan view. Of course, we need to make our paper size a little bit bigger. Again, this could definitely be improved. But currently, this is how it works. Change the height to like, I don't know, 16. So now we got our plan and our profile all on one single piece of paper. We'll go ahead and export this. We'll say this is test number 2. And we'll export that. And then we get this, our PDF with both our plan and profile, our projected profile. So you take a running profile, make a projected profile. And these profiles link up with the plan. So if you see here, here's the entrance up here, and there's some ceiling steps. Let's zoom in so we can see what I'm talking about. So here's the entrance. You got a couple rebelays going down, and then you can kind of see the ceiling step right there. And you can really kind of link these two together really well. You can see that this is coming out of the page, and it's kind of doing all sorts of crazy morphing. So it's good to play around with your views to try to like get as much of the profile in there as you can, because unlike the plan, it may not scale as well. That makes sense. But essentially, if you look at like here's a pool of water here, and if you just go down, it'll link up with that pool of water in the profile view. So I really like this feature a lot. It's made some cool paper visualizations. All right, so the last thing I want to show you all is, one second. All right, so here's another cave, less vertical extent, but this cave has a bunch of leads in it, and I wanted to show off the kind of the lead lists in CaveWhere. So if you click on any of these leads, you can click on the lead in here, and then you can click on notes inside this. This will give you a description. So in the notes, it said, oh, this is tight. And if we go to the notes, we can see, oh, there's the lead. It says it's tight. If we go back to our visualization, these you can really kind of see like, oh, okay, there's some leads under here and there's a lead up there. Maybe you want to plan a camp to J15, but you want to know like, I want to have a lead list for that camp to go explore around the camp. So where are the closest leads? So not only can CaveWhere visualize all the leads, if you go to data, oops, if you go to data and you click on your cave and you click on leads right here, this will be the lead list for the whole entire cave. So if we're planning a camp to J15, which is what was in the visualization. So here's J15, looks big and sandy. We plug in distance from J15. This will update this column distance to J15, and then you can sort by any of these columns. For example, we're gonna sort from J15, and these are all the leads. Line of sight, it doesn't give you traverse length. So most caves, like if you're close to a station, more than likely you're not going to have to traverse really far away. But you know, there's always exceptions to that. But now you can see, oh, okay, there's a lead here at J17 that goes. It's trips 9. Let's go see where that lead is in the cave. If you click go to, it'll move the window to that lead and display it. So there's the lead. And you can zoom in and kind of rotate around. And you're like, oh, well, maybe that leads on top of this other piece of cave. So you can kind of see like, oh, perhaps that's the same canyon, or maybe that's a lower level. It's good to know, but maybe here's another lead. And you can click on notes again, and that will show you where that lead is. And it doesn't have any information for that lead. All right, so that's more or less what the current features are in CaveWhere. So if we go back to our presentation, so who's using CaveWhere? Several cave projects in Virginia in the United States. Some of the cave survey in China has been using it. Montenegro, Bridger Teton National Forest. CaveWhere overall is super fast. I try to make it as user-friendly as possible, mostly because so I don't get angry at my own software. It's cross-platform, open source. You can find it on GitHub. You can report bugs on GitHub if you have a GitHub account. It's free. It runs on Mac, Linux, Windows. And the great thing about CaveWhere is it's currently in active development, so you get new features all the time. So the future of CaveWhere, this is more or less some ideas that I have for newer versions of CaveWhere. And you know, the reason why we have these talks is, you know, for you guys to ask questions and give me ideas, and because you know, there's lots of different ideas and lots of different ways, and we can go into all the technical details. But these are kind of the ideas I have. So in the next version of CaveWhere, definitely there's going to be a new 3D engine, and that's already been implemented in a development branch. So that's definitely coming. There's going to be keyword data filtering in the newer version, and the newer version that I'm talking about is 1.10, which will probably be released in the next 6 months. But it really just depends on like how much time I have to work on it. Keyword filtering essentially is where you have like your like survey lines or your line plot or your sketch all has like metadata attached to it, kind of like you know, the data was surveyed, the type of data is like, is it a line plot or is it a scan sketch? Like what cave or trip it's on, and that'll allow you to filter that data and only visualize the parts of the cave that you want to visualize. That's really good for like creating your creating an export, because a lot of times when you're exporting things, different layers currently get in the way, and the keyword filtering will fix that problem. Also, in the next version, I'm going to work on adding 3D terrain modeling and 3D terrain modeling and satellite imaging with Mapbox. And this is going to be really straightforward. You don't have to like gather data or enter anything. Basically, you just have to enter the location of your entrance, and hopefully it will pull everything in and visualize that, assuming you're connected to the internet. And of course, if we get 3D modeling and satellite images, GIS exports is the next obvious step. I'd really like to add splash shots and disto-x support. Digital survey is definitely like more or less the future of Cave survey. I mostly live in the paper world, so that's where like most of my effort is gone, but I'm really interested in that. And then finally, I have a large backlog of cave maps to draw. I'm not super happy with what's currently out there, so I'm really interested in making, potentially adding drawing features to CaveWhere. Hopefully to be very cave mapping specific. A lot of times when you have programs like Illustrator, for example, it's designed to make icons and like posters and other things, and it's not really designed to make cave maps. So when you constrain the problem, you generally get a better product. So that's the idea behind that. So if you want to see more of these things get implemented, of course, you can donate to the CaveWhere project through my Patreon. And essentially that just like helps pay for code signing and web hosting and all sorts of other costs that I have to pay for, basically to release software for the caving community. So I know I'll never get rich off of CaveWhere, but like it's something fun for me to do, and I love to have the support. And you can download the brand new version off of CaveWhere.com. I put it up there today. It has a lot of new changes, bug fixes. I definitely recommend using that over the 0.8 version. Just because it says beta 2 doesn't mean that it's not better than the current version you're probably using. So that's pretty much it. If you